Hey folks, back one more time with another scale model build. This time it's of Revell's 124 scale 1970 Plymouth Road Runner. Now I didn't bother doing an unboxing and review of the kit itself, simply because, like many of the other kits I've built, there's plenty of information already online about it. So if you're looking to see the contents, feel free to check out one of those other videos. But what I will say is this particular release came out in the year 2000, so this kit is almost 25 years old. Now, interestingly enough, I bought this kit just for those 6-slot steel wheels you see. This particular version is the latest release of the Revell kit. I don't know if it's still in production, but basically, if it is, this configuration with the air grabber hood and these wheels is the most recent version. With that said, the tooling of this kit dates all the way back to the 1980s, I believe somewhere around 1981. And it's had very few changes since then, the main changes being a few additions, such as those wheels and different hoods. I believe there might have been different engines on the older one. But other than that, the interior, the body, all of that is the same tooling as the original. Now, the first ones, released by Monogram, were available in both Road Runner, like this, as well as GTX. Now, if you know Mopars, you're probably familiar that all these cars are based on the Plymouth Satellite. And the only difference between Road Runner and GTX is a few badging differences. That's pretty much it, and interior trim. Now, to my knowledge, there was only one version of the GTX released by Monogram, and it was released sometime in the 80s, if I'm correct. It hasn't been re-released, but the only difference is right here where the scoop is. It has GTX molded, and it also has a decal to go over that. And the grill, the Plymouth grill, as you can see, on a GTX has, instead of slots, it has kind of a mesh or honeycomb. Now when it's blacked out, it's hardly noticeable. A GTX would say GTX in the middle, and on the GTX kit, it did. But with a little bit of work, you could probably make this a GTX really easily. Now, getting back to it, as I mentioned, I bought this kit just for those steel wheels with the dog dish poverty hubcaps. And funny enough, they are not correct for a 1970 Plymouth, but I ended up buying this kit to take those wheels and use them on a 71 Plymouth GTX. Now, this is a first generation Plymouth Road Runner. This generation ran from 68 to 1970, and the second gen ran from 1971 to 1974. If you go through some of my previous videos, my second most recent build, just a few weeks ago, was a Sassy Grass 71 Road Runner, which I stole these wheels out of this kit for that build. And they work perfect because both of these are by Revell and they're both in 124 scale. One of the biggest problems I've had with the 124 scale Revells is finding wheels from other kits that fit and look right. And most of them look way too small. I do believe this kit came with another set of wheels. I can't remember what style. I think they were rally wheels, but as you can see, I didn't use them. But after stealing them for my 71, which, by the way, they're not quite correct for a 71. They'd be more found on something more likely found on a 72 and up Plymouth, but very, very nominal difference. I'm just kind of splitting hairs with that. Because I didn't like any of the other wheels that I had, I went with these wheels. These are actually out of a 1967 Cornet RT kit that I built some time ago. This was a Chip Foose release, and I believe that kit was from Revell as well. So They're kind of a cross between a Magnum 500, but they have these Halabrand type wheel pockets with these jelly bean openings, as you can see. But with the pockets painted from far back, they have like a Magnum 500 or American Racing vibe to them. Now, out of the box, this kit, like all the other ones, it has very clean lines. It's a pretty crisp kit. As I recall, there wasn't a whole lot of flashing issues, but the proportions on this and all the other 70 Road Runner and GTX kits from Revell and Monogram, the proportions are off. As you can see, the door and the whole side profile of the car is stretched out a bit. If you know these cars, you know they're not that tall. And it's most evident in the front here. So I'd say if they could have shrunk this all down a little bit, other than that, if they had done that, the rest of it's perfect. The roof line's great. The back is done well. That hood, or that side scoop, very well rendered. But again, in spite of that, this kit shows very well. Looks good on a shelf. Now, I did this particular build in a very rare, 1 year only, Frosted Teal metallic. This is an actual Plymouth color from 1970. Very rare to find any cars this color online. If you look at images, Google image this color, you might find 2 or 3 cars painted this color. It's very uncommon. It wasn't, from what I gather, it wasn't available for the entire 1970 model year. And it wasn't actually found on all models. I believe it was only found on the full-size Chryslers and Plymouths, so like Sport Fury or 300. But interestingly enough, when I was sitting down and trying to pick a color for this build, I wanted to go with an authentic Chrysler or Plymouth color from the era, but I wanted to go something unusual that you don't usually see. Now, going online, there's plenty done in green or sublime, plum crazy purple, or in violet, as it's also known as. All those radical colors. So I really wanted to choose something different. Then I landed on this. And how I actually landed on this color is in 1970, another famous Plymouth was released, at least in brochure form. Chrysler had promoted what's known as the Color Chip Cuda. And although it was only a marketing stunt, they had a 1970 Plymouth Barracuda that had stripes with every single color offered in the Plymouth lineup for that year. And this being one of them. When I saw this color, this is a very unusual, almost like a silvery green, and it really changes. It's got a heavy metallic that really changes in the light. A very modern looking color by 1970 standards. This almost looks contemporary today. But when I saw this, I was intrigued because although at first glance it looks kind of like a variation of more popular colors, it actually is a very unique color, and I didn't recall seeing it on any other cars. So I did some research and found out just how rare this color was. P6, again, is the paint code, and only found on 1970 Plymouths and Chryslers. Now, again, to my knowledge, not available on a Road Runner, only available on the full sizes, like I mentioned before. But because I saw it on that Plymouth Cuda that Chrysler released, that promotional car, I thought, what a cool what if build if I did this in that color. And again, this kit started off just as something I bought to steal those parts out of. I originally didn't even plan on building it, but when I got it, I noticed all the parts were there, so I thought, you know what, why not build something out of it and throw some different wheels on it and see what I can do. Now, although I'm very happy with how it turned out, and you're seeing it fresh, like the paint is barely cured on it, so I haven't quite finished with the detailing. I think I'm going to maybe do the door handles. I like the monochromatic look, so I'm not going to do the Road Runner stripes or anything like that. I actually built this with a satellite in mind. The satellite, of course, is what the Road Runner is based off of. The project name in my head that I did was Sleeper Satellite. So as you can see with a Road Runner, you got this Road Runner stripe, the high impact colors, all this stuff, the blacked out grille. But on satellites, they have a more subdued silver or argent grille. So what I did was I took the grill, the Plymouth grill. I knocked some of the shine off because it is chrome. I knocked some of the shine off by using just chrome paint on top of it. I took all the mirror chrome off this car and did a more aluminum, kind of a toned down version. I did build it with the air grabber hood. You have two hood choices on this. It's the same hood, but you can have the air grabber open or closed. I had initially had the decals for the air grabber, the orange shark, and although it did look nice, the decals that came with the kit don't fit nicely on it. They're way oversized. I tried trimming them and using them. They looked okay, but it kind of took away from the very understated feeling of this car. I don't like any of the chrome on it, so I just wanted to do a very, like I said, subdued, understated look. Even the 446 badge, I had it on there, took it off, didn't quite like how it looked. And as well, this kit being well over 20 years old, some of those decals on the decal sheet were turning yellow, so I wasn't quite sure how nice some of them would look. For the interior, if you can see here, I did a complimentary spruce green, like a dark blue green. Kind of get a better idea here in the light. There you go. Which, for a Plymouth, if this was a full-size Plymouth, is very much a correct color for the for an interior. If you had this car, you'd either have a blue interior, maybe a bright, not a bright green, but like a forest green, kind of a deep green, or this color. And for the Road Runner, I thought this was a perfect match. I apologize for it being so dark inside, but as you can see, I detailed out the interior. It's starting to focus. The kit comes with a pistol grip for the 4-speed. It's a bench seat car. As you can see the dash. That's just the shine coming off from the light. That's not the white of the dash shining through. This kit is molded in white, I will say that. I detailed out the horn, or sorry, the horn ring on the steering wheel. Did that in silver. The door panels, as you can see, I detailed out. I did them in body color. Did the silver accent ring around them, which would be pretty typical of these cars. They had silver trim on them. Shot of the back seat there. On the seats, I did a little bit of silver marking on the centers. There's kind of like a little trim piece, just kind of a style piece there. Overall, the interior rendering of this kit, very well done. Very impressed. For such an old kit, it's really crisp. The detail's really sharp. And again, this is old tooling. This is early 80s tooling, but it still shows well. Now, getting back to the stance, again, these wheels are from that Revell Chip Foose release kit. I believe that kit was released in the mid to later 2000s, kind of somewhere around 2007 to 2010 or 11. This if you put it together box stock, it has this rake to it, so it very much works because the tires from this kit are slightly staggered. Hard to notice, but they're a little bit bigger, like taller profile in the rear, and they're just ever so slightly wider. Hardly noticeable, but I think it works. Now, I did have some issues with this kit, with the fitment. One of them being this rear tail panel. This was a big issue. On mine, this piece here with the tail lights and where it says Plymouth fits into the body, and the inside of the body, like the opening, is kind of concave. It flares out like this, so it gets narrower as you go in further. That didn't work because it was too small for the tail panel. I actually had to take a Dremel, like a little multi-tool, a little rotary tool, and open up the opening to fit this tail panel in. And I actually had to also shave a little bit off the back side of the tail panel. So again, this was a quickly thrown together kit. I do these things pretty quick. I like to do my builds in less than a week, preferably 2, 3, 4 days. But things like that hold you up. Now the rear bumper fits on this panel, so if you're building this, make sure you get the fitment of that right. Otherwise, your bumper's not going to sit all that nicely. Other than that, the back of it sits kind of freely. It doesn't glue in, and for that reason, unintentional rear suspension. It's not that the suspension's flexing. That's basically the whole tub and frame. Really, if you look at it, unless you try to get creative and run beads of glue on each side, the only mounting point, and it works, it gives you this nice rake, is the front section of the frame. I'll flip it over here. So the front section of the frame glues onto the inside of the fenders, basically, in the body. So not much holds it, but as you can see, as it sits, the frame is perfectly level with the rocker of the car. So this is the intended stance, and it really looks good. I'd like to maybe down the road, if I can, find a nice 1/24 scale set of maybe proper dog dish and steel wheels. They would have a four slots on these 1970s, and maybe a slightly thicker tire in the rear. I do them body color, but again, for now, this is how it ended up. I didn't want to spend too much time or even money on it because this is something I bought just for parts, but threw it together when I realized, hey, I have everything here. Now, here's a shot of the hood and the air grabber. I did a couple of faux hood pins there, made hood pins out of other decals. See if I can open this gently. It's a hinged hood, and there is your 446 pack. I detailed the bottles out for the coolant and your battery. Battery is attached to the inner fender. There's no separation. I didn't bother doing a cut line to divide it. I just did a painted where the battery would end, basically. Didn't want to spend all that much time on it because, again, this was just for fun. One thing I haven't put in yet, I had a really hard time with it, so I'm going to modify it and put it in after, was the radiator in the shroud. You notice it's missing because it doesn't fit in nicely. At least this one didn't. So I'm going to do some trimming, and I can actually just drop it in at a later time. Haven't quite finished trimming it up yet, but it'll drop in nicely. You won't notice the difference. For the turn signals, I detailed them out. For the back, I blacked out side marker lights. I blacked out the side markers. But yeah, overall, nice kit. Very happy with it. I built it again with the air grabber open. You can also have the option to just put a closed door. I thought about that, but it gives it a little extra spice. And if you look down on it, you can see the bright Chrysler engine orange shining back at you. Well, on that note, that wraps up this build of, again, this 124 scale 1970 Plymouth Road Runner. A little bit longer video, but this one I think had some cool touches that I did. A big one being the color. I actually based this whole build on this particular color, although it's not a very extravagant or exciting color, should I say. It's not a loud color. It's interesting enough, and it's rare enough to kind of give it an unusual element. It's not a color that you'll ever see in this car. But as always, I appreciate you watching my videos. I've done a few builds that you've probably seen if you watch any other builds on my channel. I appreciate all my viewers that take the time to watch these. I thought I'd get one last one done before the summer heat hits. I don't know when the next time I'll get a chance to get a model on the bench, but I do still have a few unbuilt kits, so stay tuned, you might see more. But as always, thanks for watching, and if I get another one on the bench, you'll be the first to see it. Take care.